Hatshepsut, the first female pharaoh of Egypt. She reigned over Egypt for more than 20 years. She first rose to power alongside her husband, Pharaoh Thutmose II, but after his death claimed the role of pharaoh while acting as regent to her stepson, Thutmose III. She reigned peacefully, building temples and monuments, resulting in the flourish of Egypt. Hatshepsut was a powerful figure in ancient Egyptian history, but her role in history is often not remembered. After her death, her husband's son erased her inscriptions and tried to eradicate her memory. Today, we bring her story back to life and honor her role in building an empire. This is the story of the first female pharaoh of Egypt. It all began around 1508 BC in ancient Egypt. Hatshepsut was born the daughter of Pharaoh Thutmose I and his concubine, Amis. She was raised as a royal princess and married at the age of 12 to her half-brother, Pharaoh Thutmose II, and became the king's great wife. Her life was tied to that of her husband and was cast in the shadows of his reign. Not much is known of Hatshepsut during her husband's reign, but she would soon break away and challenge these norms which had been imposed upon her. This change occurred following the death of her husband. Pharaoh Thutmose II had previously had a son with another woman. This was the son who was supposed to inherit the title of Pharaoh. But the boy was only an infant at that time, that his father passed away, and was not in a position to be the Pharaoh of Egypt. As a result, Hatshepsut was to act as his regent. Little by little, Hatshepsut was able to enact her powers as Pharaoh regent of Egypt. In 1483 BCE, Hatshepsut began work on the temple complex at Deir el-Bahri. At this time, she was still technically counted as regent, and was supposed to be making these decisions on behalf of the child pharaoh, but she decided to take on challenges that proved to be fruitful and important to history. The temple was the most significant construction project in Egypt in quite some time, and today is counted as one of the most beautiful temples remaining in Egypt. In 1479 BCE, Hatshepsut fully seized power and became the pharaoh. But this was not an easy task at this time. Hatshepsut was treated very poorly as pharaoh. She encountered various forms of sexism, and people believed that she was not fit to be pharaoh as she was a woman. Men were in charge, and women were only an extension of these male figures. She refused to adhere to this and would continue to challenge these norms. Once Hatshepsut took power, she also began to change her image. She demanded to be seen as a man in her paintings and statues. She ordered that she be portrayed as a male pharaoh with a beard and large muscles. There are many levels and questions to these actions, but there are few answers to why she chose to do what she did. It is possible that Hatshepsut did this to be taken seriously, realizing that only men were granted this right. It is also a possibility that Hatshepsut may be identified more as a male during this time and wanted to be seen as such. maybe she was just rejecting more gender norms of her time. No one can really know. All we do know is that she took this big step towards changing her image and left a lasting legacy as a result. As Pharaoh, Hatshepsut undertook ambitious building projects, particularly in the area around Thebes. A great achievement in Hatshepsut's reign was a trading expedition she authorized around 1479 through 1458 BCE that brought back vast riches including ivory, ebony, gold, leopard skins, and incense to Egypt from a distant land known as Punt. While the exact location of Punt is unknown, it may have been in the area of modern-day Somalia. Hatshepsut began widespread construction projects, both in her own building campaigns and to repair damage done by the Hyksos prior to her reign. Between 1479 and 1475 BCE, Hatshepsut raised two great obelisks at Karnak. One of these is the tallest obelisk in Egyptian history. She had proved to be a powerful leader and pushed ancient Egypt forward through her various feats. One can only imagine everything else she would have accomplished had she continued to rule, but sadly, her reign as Pharaoh was cut short. On January 14, 1458 BCE, Hatshepsut died in Egypt. Hatshepsut was buried in the Valley of Kings, located in the hills behind the temple of Der el-Bahri. She had her father's sarcophagus reburied in her tomb, so they could lie together in the afterlife. Little is known about how she died, but she most likely died from complications of cancer or diabetes. Thutmose III went on to rule for 30 more years, proving to be both an ambitious builder, like his stepmother, and a great warrior. But he was not kind to the legacy of Hatshepsut. Late in his reign, Thutmose III had almost all of the evidence of Hatshepsut's rule, including the images of her as king on the temples and monuments she had built, eradicated, possibly to erase her example as a powerful female ruler, or to close the gap in the dynasty's line of male succession. This story of this powerful leader was erased from history, and her legacy was a secret for many centuries. Scholars of ancient Egypt knew little of Hatshepsut's existence until 1822, when they were able to decode and read the hieroglyphics on the walls of Der el-Bahri. In 1903, the British archaeologist Howard Carter discovered Hatshepsut's sarcophagus, but it was empty, like nearly all of the tombs in the Valley of Kings. After launching a new search in 2005, a team of archaeologists discovered her mummy in 2007, which is now housed in the Egyptian Museum in Cairo. Hatshepsut was a great leader, who many looked upon as a role model, who led their country in the best way. Despite her stepson/nephew, Thutmose III, she had many admirers within her country. The Egyptians accomplished many architectural feats during Hatshepsut's reign, such as the temple of Deir el-Bahri. They had a strong leader who knew how to run a country. She's an inspiration to all women who want to do great things in leadership. Her story will never be forgotten, and she will continue to be an amazing historical figure and an inspiration for many in today's society.